Well, welcome to what I think is a bit of a special on Sense for you, where we're going to do a crossover. Oh, they like to do a crossover. Well, we're going to do our own crossover. We're going to talk about the whole of sci-fi, particularly Star Trek Academy and the last few seasons of Doctor Who, and ask the big question: has TV sci-fi died? Has it gone to some heaven somewhere up there? Oh, can't say heaven. We don't believe in religion anymore on the sci-fi show. Oh no. So it's all about the demise of sci-fi, framing Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, and recent Doctor Who seasons as symptomatic of broader issues in modern sci-fi. That's what we're going to be looking at. H.G. Wells turning in his grave, that sort of thing. Is this the end of thoughtful sci-fi? Can it rebound? Now, just before I do bring John Yulden, Sci-Fi Chronicle 79 in, I mean, I'm asking the question. I'm going to ask John the question about whether Russell T Davies and Alex Kurtzman, showrunners respectively of their kind of franchises, have ruined them and have actually really changed what they were too far. But there's one other person I could mention, William Shatner. What does he think? I am so on the page, as Stephen Emma was moaning about it. The fact that they have not cured Hyropia by the 32nd century is an abysmal oversight of the writers. Also, Paramount Plus needs to up the budget, because I'm sure that a well-oiled organisation like Starfleet in the distant future could afford more than one pair of glasses for at least this I can't speak, bridge crew. Do they pass the glasses around while piloting the ship? Shame on the producers. So I think I need to get John on. He likes his Stargate, he likes his Star Trek, he likes his sci-fi. Here we go.
Hey, good to see you, mate.
Yeah, well, good to see you. And this is a certain one for you, hot to trot, isn't it? This one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I saw this tweet from Shatner in the week, and I was like 100%, because when I was watching Star Trek Academy, and again, I needed copious bottles of Romulan ale to get through these episodes because it is so bad. And the fact of the matter is, it's not just that. It's also the fact you've got a girl in the first episode who is sat in the academy. She's sat in a 21st century wheelchair. Okay.
Yeah.
It's established in Star Trek The Next Generation, where Worf falls and he breaks his spine, and they do this revolutionary new procedure that's experimental, and they repair his spine. So that's that is in Star Trek The Next Generation. We're now 900 years plus in the future. Now, I'm sorry, if you're going to have a wheelchair that isn't just purely virtue signaling, which this is, you have to add in some text or some writing to explain why that is the case. But these people never do it. And I was looking at it, mate, and this is how bad the writing is now. And it's Doctor Who, it's also Star Trek. When you look back at the classic Star Trek episodes, the original series, you look at Next Generation, you look at Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, one thing you have a lot of what they would say are diverse stories, DEI stories. But you know what? We don't care, because the characters are well written. They've actually given the reasons for what's happened in it. There's an episode in Deep Space Nine where there's a character, Daphne Ashbrook, who we know from Doctor Who, the movie.
Yeah.
She is in a wheelchair in Deep Space Nine. And the reason she's in a wheelchair is she comes from a planet where the gravity isn't as strong as it is for humans and for Deep Space Nine. So the pressure on her means that she has to use a wheelchair to get about. We don't care, because they've written a very intelligent, very clever science fiction episode. Now they just throw it into the episode and they go, there you go, box ticked. It's lazy. Rant over.
The Watcher. He was the Doctor all the time.
I was about to invite John
Bye, everyone.
do a roast of a summary of where we stand with and he's given his example.
Binned, everyone. I've been put in the sin bin.
We've got, you go back to the original premise of Star Trek and Gene Roddenberry and what they were trying to set up, and the old-fashioned Klingons and the old-fashioned Romulans,
Yeah.
and you look at that, and you look at actually how they've tried to depict it in the movies, even when they've modernized it and changed the actors. I was happy with that, John.
Yep. Yep.
I thought there were some great stories there. The first one's almost iconic in itself, absolutely fantastic. But you recognised, I think, I'm being fair, aren't I? I recognised the characters even though the cast had changed.
100%. And because they had the same essence, the same flair for, taking risks and excitement that crew had in the original series. I also, going into Academy as well, and you're saying about the original series, one thing that infuriated me in this first episode of Star Trek Academy is you see the black and white species just as a cadet in shot, just as they're about to go down to San Francisco. They've got a black and white face. Now that race is from the original series story, as I'm sure you know and everyone knows. It's called Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, and it's where the colors are swapped on each of the two characters' faces, so they hate each other. It's a racism episode. But because they're focused on it, they get back to their world, and it's established in the episode that they're the last two because their world wiped themselves out. So they're the last two fighting in existence. But all of a sudden, bling, there's another one in Star Trek Academy 1,000 years in the future. How? You've not explained, you've not written anything in, you've just been lazy and you've popped it in there, and you did the same thing in a Section 31 movie. That's the trouble with modern writing.
And this is what I mean, when John gives us all his in-depth Star Trek stuff, I've watched Star Trek, I haven't got his in-depth knowledge, but I'll keep counterbalancing it with where we started with that season 1, season 2 of Doctor Who in 63, 64. The ideas, the experimentation, they took us to amazing places. Whether the budget could live with it didn't matter. The stories were there, the maturity there, that TARDIS crew, that they didn't diminish you. You might have had 2 teachers on that TARDIS crew, but I didn't feel patronized like I did watching Star Trek Academy. I mean, I felt so insulted watching Star Trek Academy. This was asking questions, this Doctor Who.
We're certainly different from when we started out with you.
We've all changed.
Started out as a mild curiosity in the junkyard. Now it's turned out to be quite a great spirit of adventure, don't you think?
Yes. Oh, it's a wonderful thing, this ship of yours, Doctor.
However, now, let us get back to this little problem.
I did one episode of my TV roast of the spin-off of the War Between the Land and the Sea, and it invites us both to just start. Because we'll talk about all the big stuff today, about the messaging, the budget, the storytelling, the cast in sci-fi TV. But I want John to come out of his shell, be less shy about it. If I said to you, you've got 2 minutes to actually sum up where you feel sci-fi TV is nowadays, and you can go in any direction, and I can't interrupt you for 2 minutes, and then after that I'll come in.
Okay. Okay, so I actually think that this is actually the worst period for science fiction, the worst era for science fiction that we have ever had. In that, people laugh at the 50s, where there were some cheesy B movies, but they had some fantastic movies. You had like This Island Earth and sci-fi movies like that. You had Superman series with George Reeves. You had some really great stuff. The trouble now is the fact that the people that are making them do not respect in the current era what has gone before. That is a major problem. And also, they haven't got the ability to write at the level of the writers that came before them. So what they do is they do 2 things. They go, right, the only thing I know to do is to dumb it down because I can write at that dumb level. And also what they do is they go, do you know what? That show that's lasted for, 60 plus years. Well, I can't write within that format, within that structure, within that universe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely alter the structure of that universe and the history of that show so that my very lacking and untalented writing could fit into that universe, or I can adapt it to fit my needs. That's what's happening now. And again, Star Trek Academy is just another symptom of it. It's so bad that I actually thought when I was watching Star Trek Academy, I could see Ncuti Gatwa's TARDIS materializing and Ncuti Gatwa stepping out of the TARDIS.
Give me the loving. I bet you thought it was a yummy Yeti.
That's how bad it was. And you're thinking, these are iconic shows. Every time I hear they're going to do a reboot of this, a reboot of that. In the past, I used to get excited about these things, but now I'm like, no, I really hope you don't. Leave it alone. We are in a really bad place with science fiction. Stargate is coming back in a couple of years. I have more hope for Stargate because it's the writers who originally did it and they're talented people. So I hope they do it justice. But I don't want another Russell T Davies incident. We've had too many of them.
Awful lot of people have masturbated over my work and come up to me and tell me.
What? I've not seen that one before.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that bit.
John, you throw in Stargate, I throw in this. You know, we've all got worries about any of our favorite sci-fi, you know, brands.
Red Alert, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're worried about what they might do with Stargate. I'm worried what they might do if Blake 7 is brought back with this. This virus now of poor stuff. I agree with nearly every word you've said. I'll be honest with you. So I'll do my little TV roast, and then by the way, everybody will have warmed up. This is only the beginning. I've tried my best, John. I've watched the 3 episodes of Star Trek Academy. I've watched 2 seasons of RTD, and I actually shouted at the TV more when I watched Star Trek Academy. My God! So here we go. I mean, they've got form on this, Alex Kurtzman, haven't they? Star Trek Discovery, I have to say, told me there was a problem. Season 1, I was in. Season 2, I was okay. Then it really went fat. And of course, the trouble is they've linked to this, haven't they, John? Because the burn. Burn. This intergalactic thrush. I mean, what the hell is this?
I mean, this is the stupid thing, you know. Let's talk about the burn, which is idiotic, for a second.
Do we have to?
Yeah. So an alien links himself effectively to dilithium crystals, has a temper tantrum, and destroys every dilithium crystal in the galaxy. And so much so that it destroys all the ships. Now, the question I have, because they carry on with this, because
is he a space baby?
Yeah, yeah. Because right, it's so what I don't get about this, right? 2 things. First of all, or the way Star Trek Academy finishes, because Holly Hunter's Captain Nala, who is just a wine mum drunk, quite frankly, in this whole season. yeah, exactly. Yeah, injection, please.
Empathy and growth. Yeah. You've got a growth in your mouth. What the hell's going on?
Exactly. I mean, she says, right, the opening crawl for it is, you know, you got the space image, you know, and it goes, a long time ago, Starfleet Academy took the finest minds, hearts, and spirits of every generation and taught them to be lifelong explorers of space, our final frontier. Then one day, fate handed us an unimaginable loss, the burn, and it all went away, right? And I'm just going to counter what Captain Nala says there. She says they took the best and brightest. Episode 1, 24 minutes in, you have a cadet who decides to eat a comm badge.
I know. I had to replay that. I thought, hold on, have I misheard what the hell she's talking about there? But anyway.
So I wouldn't like to be the flipping captain who has that assigned to my ship.
Well, you know, I can't poo. I know why now. That's a sharp.
You imagine, right? When I look at Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, those cadets are on a training assignment, right? And Admiral Kirk is on there, Captain Spock is there. Then the incident with Khan and the Defiant turns up, right? So they are asked, Kirk even says, I'm asking you to grow up a little earlier than you expected. Okay. But even those cadets at that time, they're willing to do what they need to do. They don't do like this flipping cadet who eats a comm badge, you know, later in the episode, runs down a corridor going, red alert, red alert, red alert. You know, if I was there, mate, she would have been jettisoned out the nearest airlock. Trust me.
Well, as you know, I was struggling with this Star Trek Academy, and I haven't even started my rant yet. But obviously, you know, I've got 30 years here of teaching 11 to 18-year-olds, and I was thinking, I don't recognize these people. I don't recognize these demographics. It's almost as if these writers don't understand the public and don't understand how they think. So here we go. This is me. I'm going to let rip here. So Star Trek Discovery started us. I thought I was watching an upgrade, a human version, a kind of fleshed out version of the Jetsons.
Yeah.
Because in the Jetsons, you do have the Little Dipper School. And I have to say, the way these lot are behaving, it's more the Little Dipper School than it is actually the Orbit High School. But honestly, John, I was trying to work out what I was watching here. Let's be frank. I'm watching this because I feel as though I have to. There's no peril, there's no danger, there's no evil, there's no jeopardy. The only reason you're watching it is because you think this is good entertainment.
Yeah.
Now,
100%.
my argument was always the same with the shooty era. There was hardly any jeopardy or, you know, because every bi-generation means everyone lasts, blah, 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 blah. And you can always have the reset button. But then, John, as I watched the Jetsons and you see that teacher there, this looks highbrow. Look at that blackboard. That looks like really high concept stuff. Meanwhile, they're talking about growth, potential, empathy. And of course, nowadays, science fiction is not about maths. It's not about technology. It's not about innovation. It's all about, do you understand yourself? Are you an individual? Are you growing as a person? It's called bollocks. Absolute bollocks. And of course, those droids, those
Disney.
CGI droids you see everywhere, it's just cartoon CGI. Cartoon sci-fi. It's not highbrow sci-fi. They look so babyish. It's kind of Disney-ish. I mean, John, Starship Passions, their hearts are light years apart. I feel as though this is like the Star Trek Academy is a bit like watching Rogue, a bit like watching the Bridgerton Doctor Who. It's all kind of soap opera in space. EastEnders in space, as I said to the GB News and the PA Press Association. Starship Passions, look at this. And of course, John, they're throwing Oscar Wilde and The Art of War, and they think they're doing high culture. It's not. It's an anachronism in this sort of procedure, and I haven't finished even. They bring characters from previous eras, we'll call it classic Star Trek almost, classic other periods, and they change them like I was Sutek. Like our Omega, like our Rani, no doubt like our Susan, and like our Doctor. They changed them. So he's been changed. I don't recognise him. I liked her in Star Trek Discovery, by the way. And she's now this sarky, weird, oh God, can't stand her. And it reminds me of the other thing, John, that it's this obsession with these showrunners, these, you know, the military and military service, they do not understand. The Brigadier's daughter, Kate Stewart, after being given a cuppa and some biscuits by her man.
This morning I showered in a sink.
They do not understand education. Grange Hill and Biker Grove were more highbrow than this.
100%.
I feel as though with the plot of part 3, I was watching a kind of, I don't know, a science fiction kind of game of paintball with a bit of basketball. I mean, Oh,
I'm going to come on to that later. Yeah, 100%. I've got things to say about that.
why is it that when you want to do representation of women, when you have women leaders in unit, when you have women leaders in Star Trek Academy, because nearly all the bloody teachers are female, that they're all weird?
Leave the girl. It's the man I want.
Absolutely, I'm just going to say weird, incompetent, can't cope with power. Power corrupts, they say. But I have to say, my biggest bane of all this, John, is this Californian bubble pop kind of crud, which is all this obsession with individuality and bring yourself out and empathize with the other emotion. And it's into. What is that crap? That doesn't work in the military. Jane Roddenberry's Star Trek would not cope with that. Captain Kirk would have you on a court-martial if you suddenly said, bollocks to you, mate. And it was the same with Unit, wasn't it, in the spin-off?
Yeah.
Suddenly Unit, everybody's going, well, you know, and no. This is all wrong. Individuality. I got as high up as the Territorial Army officer. But by God, you cannot take on a sergeant major. You cannot take on the officers. And even when I was being trained as an officer, the episode 3, when they did that kind of mock war scenario, you know, the battle, the nonsense battle, which seemed to have the same set as Boom, same orangey, crappy glow.
Yeah.
And they run from rock to rock as if this is the real trenches of World War One. No, honestly, it had no sense to it at all. Right, take a chill pill. Maybe John needs to come in now because my heart monitor's gone off the scale.
Well, again, what I don't get about this is as well is you have tactical training in Starfleet, but this is meant to be the officer class. You know, they're doing them running across a laser tag field where they're in combat. You know, they're the first in the trenches kind of thing.
Yep.
No, the officers aren't the first in trenches. Yes, you'll have tactics where you see in Star Trek where the captain leads the away mission. I get that, but they're talking about, from what they show there, it's a full-on war zone. There's been examples of it in Star Trek. You know, DS9 did a wonderful story about, you know, a siege with the Jem'Hadar coming at them, but it's just ridiculous. And I'll give you an example about how bad the writing is in this, and I'll jump quickly to episode 3, and obviously we'll come back and we'll talk about episode 1 and 2. But in episode 3, mate, fat Klingon Jem'Hadar hybrid. That's all I can say. That's all I can clarify her as these days. She basically establishes the fact before they do laser tag. She fires Caleb for being late. She shoots him with the phaser, and it beams him just out of the way. And she says, "These phasers just transport you out of the match, out of the pitch, essentially, right?" But then when the cadets are doing it by themselves later in the evening to win the game, the cadet fires the phaser at the 3 replicator machines on the wall and explodes them. So the steam comes out of them. So they don't even follow their own logic. They basically have written the fact these only transport things, so that should have been transporting the replicators somewhere, not destroying them. It's lazy. They put no effort into it whatsoever. I'll give you another snippet. Right in the episode 1, the bridge officer, when they're under attack, says to Captain Nala, "Our maneuvering thrusters are down, Captain," and straight away she fires back, "Emergency evasive." I've just told you the maneuvering thrusters are down. How can I do emergency evasive, for crying out loud?
No, John, you misunderstood. It was meta, just like we had the episode of Lux when you met the Doctor Who fans in an amazingly jump the shark moment. She was shouting, "Take evasive maneuvers and watch a different program." That's what she was saying there.
Yeah.
I mean, their advisors, they have trigger warnings nowadays, don't they, John, for loads of those terrible 70s programs that honestly abused our mind. but now the trigger warnings are there. Mind you, he's a trigger warning. I think this is high concept sci-fi nowadays. I think this is the level
Oh,
of
that's
Star
gritty
Trek
compared to
Academy.
this.
I mean, yeah, he's got a brain. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been heavily trained.
I
This is, mind you, I'm joking, but I'm not. Who's the honey monster in the Star Trek Academy? Who the hell's he?
Do you know what? Do you know what, mate? I will actually say about this series, the cadets aren't actually the worst part of it. It's the bridge crew, the actual leaders of the academy, the teachers. They are by far the worst part of this show. And Holly Hunter's Captain Nala is the most painful, insufferable character that I've ever experienced in any sci-fi genre in my entire lifetime, and this includes Ncuti Gatwa. You know,
I'm sorry, but it's a lie.
she is insufferable.
You should be on that bed now if you're going to be her. You should be lounging around. Hi.
Yeah.
By the way, everybody, I'm not messing on, but this is, and I've not got ADH, but this is me being Captain Nala. Hi, and then, you know, honestly, but also in a dressing gown. Yeah, getting my bits out, going, well, I'm not sure about this. Honestly, what the hell is she? I'm sorry, I only touched the military for a while. I did do military kind of, you know, training. Honestly, officer training.
Yeah.
You stand up straight. You're smart. You are disciplined. Your hair, everything. We watch documentaries about the King's Guards now, don't we? Before they do Troop in the Colour and that, and they get bollocked, absolutely bollocked, if the shine on some metal isn't shining as much as it should, and they get, you know, press ups, do this, do that.
Yeah.
What about in part 3? The 3 lads who share a dorm and there's a mess everywhere. No, sorry, mate. I don't know what dorm you've been in the military, Alex Kurtzman. Sorry. No, that doesn't happen in the military. No.
Well,
why do they not understand the bloody military? And just before you come back in, because I know it's going to be hard for you today.
That's a step up, that is.
Yeah, look at it. The military, number one, military bad. Stephen Moffat did the same with Boom. There's an anti-military vibe in Doctor Who. There's an anti-military vibe in Californian writing, in Hollywood writing.
Yeah.
And they've made it all twee. Why was I watching Saved by the Bell? Why was I watching a version of Grease? Why was I watching a silly version of what should be military service? Why are they anti people following the rules? I don't know the names, John, but in episode 3, when Captain Naylor is up against the captain of the other house, so to speak, but he's an alien species, isn't he? And to be honest, I understood him. He's rule bound. He follows tradition.
I'm on side with him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's military. He's a traditionalist, rule bound. He does everything by the book. And she doesn't. She sits there squatting, farting, playing with herself in her pajamas. And suddenly she is seen as an individual. And that's what you need in the military. She would be out in seconds.
Well, you're 100% right. And again, in that scene, where they're sat in his quarters, and it is absolutely insufferable. And I was like, I know who I would want to be for my commandant if I was going to an academy. And he says, I agree with him 100% what he says here, and she counters back with it. She basically, this is his quote, okay? He says, "We learn more from our failures than our successes, and someone has to teach your cadets that life and war will come at them from all sides." Now, that is just like Rocky in Rocky Balboa movie, where he says, nothing is going to hit as hard as life, you know? And that is true. What he's saying is 100%. You can be cocky all you want, but in life, it's going to come at you from every angle, and you learn by making mistakes.
And in the military, they take away your individuality for a while, because this is the system so that you are a surefire person who doesn't ask questions. You actually follow first. Duty first, you second.
Yep.
And so they have to do some what looks like harsh training, boot camp and all that sort of stuff. And they do it. but you can see that Californian Hollywood kind of sensibility, which has crossed the pond now, and it's in our TV and it's in our culture. The individual, you can't hurt the person, and we have to have LGBTQ, having nice relationships in the army and everything. Be careful, because we'll use that against our troops. We need a team that doesn't divide. We need a team that stays bonded together. And all this nonsense about believe in yourself, Caleb, do this. By the way, Caleb, who we'll come to in a minute, I mean, he's a hunking beast of a man. But I'm sorry, but didn't he joke in episode 3 saying, I don't do sport? I thought, you're in the gym all bloody day.
Yeah,
mate.
yeah, exactly.
This is the other thing, John, I hate this about any TV. They always get hunks or decent looking women who are pert and all fit in all the right places. And then they'll have them drinking a lager or having loads of pizza, and you're going, oh, don't sell a dud. That man will live in a gym. And
100%.
he doesn't like sport.
Well, I mean, let's talk about him for a second, because again, before I come on to him, I want to give another example of how bad the writing is in this. Okay. Right. So we start the episode 1, this is right, with Caleb as a kid. Right. And they have the exterior effect shot of the base they're on. And it says the name of the base. And then you hear the voice saying, warning, lockdown, or something like that. Level 3 sandstorm. Right.
Yeah.
So we've established that there's quite a strong sandstorm on the way. So when Caleb steals Holly Hunter's Captain Nala's comm badge, she runs back after figuring it out, and he has opened the hatch and jumped into a level 3 sandstorm. Now his head would be caved against the mountain rock, in that sandstorm. And what does she do? This is the great captain who's going to run the future academy, everybody. She says to the 2 guards, as she seals the door that he's gone out of, she says, find him, as they run off. We know where he's gone. He's gone out the bloody door.
She's classic. I mean, honestly, folks, if you can see, I'm trying to be disciplined, but I can't be, because there's just so much there. I mean, I have to say, and yes, I agree with you, because there's so much to jump on here, John. I mean, what I will say, folks, though, is we like concept in science fiction, and I'm asking the question about the demise or the death of science fiction. You look at the ideas behind the whole essence of Star Trek Academy and Star Trek, of course, and you look at the ideas and the concept art. You look at actually the people who are doing all the skill and the talent behind the scenes. And I can't knock it. Not really. I'm not going to hit on some CGI or anything. You can see there's an imagination and a creativity there. My problem, John, is the writing of science fiction TV. Yeah. That is in the gutter. It is insulting. If you speak, you're challenged, and you're said you don't understand the concept. They are mediocre soap opera writers who have been lucky enough to somehow manage to get showrunning of a science fiction franchise built on the shoulders of other people's efforts and imagination and brain power. Yeah. And suddenly they're bastardizing it and changing it, because this captain, as you say, and as we discuss these, I will everybody be bringing Doctor Who in, just to be fair. But this captain doesn't seem to be recognizable to anything that would be in the Star Trek universe, just like we have said with Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor, and in some cases you could actually say the Jodie Whittaker Doctor. This is not following the characterization. I mean, John, this is what I mean. This is the freebie fire on the characterization front. They've completely changed it. I understand, and I will be fair, with Captain Kirk in Star Trek Wrath of Khan you talked about, part of the subplot there is he says he cheated in the
Kobayashi. Yeah.
And to be honest, this normally gets you court-martialed and stuff. There was a moment when I was doing my officer training down in Biggin Hill, right, for the RAF officer, when you'll have seen it. You have to do these tasks where there's a team of 5, there's a line on the floor, nobody can touch the floor, and I have a plank, a bit of rope, an oil drum, something else, and I have to somehow you have to go in a cupboard on your own, right? And you've got 10 minutes to come up with a master plan because you're the officer. Then you run back out and you order your team to come and do something successful. And that's the challenge of you as a person. So I thought Star Trek Academy should be similar. And you look at this, and I'm thinking, actually, as you said earlier, the officer shouldn't be at the front. I actually was successful in one of my tasks, right? I was actually successful. I got us across what looked like almost an impossible task. When the Commodore gave me my rundown of my interview, he said, you were lucky. He said, you were imaginative. He said, and you got away with it. He said, but we don't want you thinking like that in the military as an officer.
Yeah.
It has to be worked out. So basically, when you see her being depicted as some sort of, kind of maverick character, that doesn't fit with your Kirks, your Spocks, your Captain Janeway, your Picards. They can't be maverick.
No, and again, I gave the example when I did a review on Star Trek Academy, and it's quite valid to talking about Captain Nala, because everyone's going, oh yeah, she's female captain, blah blah blah. I was a teenager in the 90s when Voyager started, and we had Captain Janeway, played by the brilliant Kate Mulgrew. Again, Captain Janeway is one of my favorite captains. I love Janeway in Star Trek. I think Kate Mulgrew does a great job. But you know what? It's well known that the original pilot wasn't Kate Mulgrew. There was another captain that they'd cast who couldn't handle it and left. And if you ever see the pilot footage, the cast didn't think she commanded the bridge, and the production team and the director, they wanted that captain to come onto the bridge and own that bridge and say, this is me. And there's the famous moment when Kate Mulgrew comes in there. The actors said, we knew straight away that was our captain, because the way she owned that bridge, but also she sits down in this chair, and they all do the famous take us out, and what did she do when Harry Kim and Tom Paris walked into her captain's quarters? She basically, Harry Kim says to her, hello, sir. And she says, I don't prefer sir. And then he says, ma'am. And she goes, ma'am at a pinch, but I'd just be happy with captain.
But
she immediately, she immediately stamps her authority. Now, I ask you, with this Captain Nala, who can't even sit in a chair right, who squats across it reading a book.
He needs a wheelchair.
Yeah, exactly. How if you're a cadet, you're meant to be encouraging them, you're meant to be inspiring them to do better. Who has confidence in this captain that's going to take you out or take you into the next frontier? But just to finish off on this subject as well, with these cadets and their learning, they won't last 5 minutes out there. I mean, in Next Gen and in previous Star Trek, they're taught you have to make tough decisions and tough calls. And when Counselor Troy in Next Gen was learning to become an officer, she had to learn. She kept failing the test, and the test was she had to send the holographic Geordie in to do a repair on the engine, even though she knew he was going to die, because she had to put the ship first. This lot wouldn't. They'd be crying and wetting their pants if they had to do something like that. They're not taught any of that in this series. It's ridiculous.
But this is one of my... And I'm sorry, everybody, if you're watching, that we're trying to talk about cast, then we're talking about character, then we're talking about plot, and then we're talking about writing, because, of course, it all comes together in what is the mess and the demise of TV sci-fi.
Yeah.
My other thing,
Holly
Captain
Hunter.
Marla, she's upset. Right, okay. In her bedroom or her lounge or wherever her suite is, you see books on a shelf. You see books. And you see books in some of the classrooms a little bit, John, a little bit, because they are in an academy. And I've taught in an academy, and you have books and you have proper lessons. And in this one, you don't see anybody with a book. They're all busy just playing kind of basketball, or they're sitting at a picnic, or... Their versions of a lesson is some sort of very strange Jetson style kind of magic. Jamie keeps interrupting me when we watch it, saying, "This is Harry Potter. This is Professor so and so, the Miriam Margolyes one."
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what it reminds me of? And I've seen images of it. I'm not sure if they're getting away with it now, but before Elon Musk bought Twitter, and the gaming companies in like San
Yeah.
Francisco, where they, there was one that even posted that, she'd get up, she'd go to work, she'd have a latte, and then she'd, go out into I think they call it the breakout area, and they've got inside the office, they've got like a basketball net, and all of that. This is exactly what that is. It's like you said, they're in that bubble. This is how we operate. But it's like, no. What did you learn at Star Trek Academy? While you've graduated, what did you learn? Well, I got to learn to play basketball 2 times a day. I understood that a hologram can actually decide to take a shower. And I decided that it's probably not a good idea to eat your comm badge. How long were you there? 3 years. 3 years.
And part of the reset nonsense in part 3 was to do an experiment with those plants that meant that the dorm and the living space for that whole other baddie school, Harry Potter again, was wrecked by plants. And the joke, because of course, is this a joke or not? The joke between the captain and the other captain of that college was, "Oh, we've got a visit soon from Ofsted and the oversight committee, and you better start cleaning." They would have been the biggest absolute course mark. Those would have been kicked out in seconds. Remember, the military, no drugs, no alcohol, no this, no that, no messing on, no don't answer back. And meanwhile, we've got them all sat there going, "We got you back, you pesky kids." This is like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon of schools. This is
terrible.
Appalling. And so my question keeps saying about sci-fi TV, just because it's TV, why have we lost the concept? Why have we lost I mean, John, I am disgusted actually that the writing has gone so low now that it's set in a school and yet it's anti-intellectual. It's
100%.
anti-thinking. Because we're calling it paintball or basketball, but in that episode 3, when basically it's a kind of mock-up of a war zone, and they're basically the only brain power they've got to use is, say, to tell your legs to move forward and shoot. I mean, that's it. And to try and get to the other goal of somebody cosplaying a furry. What the bloody hell is this? It's like a kind of
insane.
Full fetish with sci-fi ears. What is it?
I mean, and also it's like, why is a hologram doing physical education? I get she wants to bond, but what's the reason for that? And also, I'm going to say a comedy moment because this is me right here. In episode 3, you've got the fat lesbian Jem'Hadar Klingon hybrid who is in charge, overweight, who is in charge of physical education. Now, I'm going to hands up. I'm not the slimmest of guys. I wouldn't get in Starfleet Academy. Well, I probably would get in with this lot because they accept everybody.
Oh, I'd excel.
But surely there's got to be a weight limit at some point. I mean, sorry, what imagine they're walking out and she's talking to someone. So what do you do at the academy? Oh, I'm in charge of physical education and combat. Sorry, PE. Yeah. And when that Klingon lad is doing the lunges, and she's right in his face and she's going, "You call that a lunge? Lower." I would literally turn to her and go, "Well, why don't you try it, you fat cow?" Look,
in the real military, you'd have been out on your ear. In this version of the military, they'd have said, "That's what we want, your growth. You've shown individual growth." This is
safe space, everybody, safe space.
This is the fundamental problem with science fiction writing now, which is if you're going to use a militia, if you're going to use an army, you need to be honest. I had Stuart write to me in Perth. Hi, Perth. And Stuart is ex-forces. And he wrote to me after the war between the land and the sea because he was troubled, irritated, frustrated by poor writing of military service.
Yeah.
Now, 1 minute the Americans are very big. In fact, they're bigger than us on the veterans. quite rightly, respect for the service of your veterans. But how have we descended in our science fiction writing to then showing military people who are parallel to that as individuals who wouldn't be allowed anywhere near military service because of the fact that they break rules, they're badly trained, they're, as you say, physically unfit? This is some sort of silly Hollywood version of what we should all be allowed to be if we're allowed to grow.
100%. And again, you know, this is these writers, you know, and this is the trouble with these writers and these people that think like it. They have this kind of socialist hippie, you know, flowers in my hair kind of mentality. And Holly Hunter's Captain Nala says this. She goes, at the end of the episode 3, she basically, I'm paraphrasing, she says, here we go. I'm going to quote it for you. She says, to learn the patience to formulate a true strategy and the empathy to understand your opponent so you can disarm them. Oh, well, that's great. You know, when I've got the Borg or Species 8471 coming at me, no, sorry, don't put the shields up. Don't lock on with the phasers or torpedoes. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to try and empathize with them and try and find common ground that way. No, you put your shields up, and as we know with bullies in life, you have to show your teeth. You have to stand up and say, we don't want to fight, but if you want to throw down, we'll give you a fight. That's Starfleet, for crying out loud. Now, what you were saying about the two academies, where you got the War College and you got Starfleet Academy, I want to say as well, this makes absolutely no sense as well, because you've had for almost 900 years, right, or 800 years, you've followed the ideals of the Federation, right, and Starfleet. Then the burn. Oh, I hate saying that word; it gives me a headache.
Galactic thrush.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have galactic thrush. So you decide to throw out almost 800 years of Federation and Starfleet history to go, we're going to be isolationists because we've no way of powering our warp drives anymore. But surely you've got ways of communicating with these other worlds still. So why have you gone isolationist, and why have you thrown out those principles for 130 plus years where you created the War College? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they wanted to set up for Starfleet Academy, as you said earlier, and as Jamie pointed out, it's Harry Potter. Star Trek. We want the rival between the houses, because it makes no sense why you would still have a War College and you'd have Starfleet Academy. You would merge the two together.
You see, this is, John, as I watch Star Trek Academy, I mean, as I've been watching Doctor Who for forever now, what I've found creeping into both of these franchises at alarming speed is I'm sat there out of loyalty to the show that I always loved, but I'm not enjoying it. Now, there's a point when you're kind of going, that's a bit meh. Then you start getting angry. Then you start going, but you can't do that. You might say stuff from the Star Trek universe that they've changed, like you talk about, you know, the engineering and all the rest of it. I mean, let's say it 1 minute, that Star Trek, I recognise the Enterprise, iconic. I recognise that. But when you see the latest one, that's crud. That makes no science fiction sense at all. Just like in Doctor Who, they've started going fantasy. Hello, fantasy, magic, magic in a Star Trek Academy, magic. That's all that was with those plants. It was 100%. Just silly magic, and it was. None of it made sense. Just like the bi-generation is unnecessary. Just like the sonic screwdriver suddenly changing what it was.
Will it not budge?
No, it won't touch it, I'm afraid, Jamie. Have to use this.
What's that?
It's a sonic screwdriver. Never fails. There we are. All done by sound waves. Now.
Suddenly the TARDIS, and they've creeped this in a lot, John, but I don't know how far you stand on the TARDIS sounding like R2-D2 and starting to be... There was an argument that it was sentient, but it's got too sentient now. You know, where the Doctor says stuff like, oh, you've redecorated.
My beautiful ghost monument. up.
Very nice. You've redecorated. I really like it. This is my TARDIS.
I subscribe to the 60s, the original First Doctor era, where he called it the ship.
I'd quite like it if you got off my ship now.
That was it. You know, I don't like the whole, you know, I can get so far as to say it's alive, but I hate all of the, you know, like you say, it's the beeps and the queeps and all of that sort of nonsense. It's ridiculous.
So, I mean, I'm looking at so many different things. Anything you like about your show that we have invested in, we've bought them, we've got the bloody tools, we've got the toys, we've got everything. To change it so fundamentally on the altar of something about some hippie nonsense, as you say. I mean, if you look at this politically, they're actually saying this is what the military should be like. And like you say, whether you mention Putin or you mention any regimes that we're up against as enemies in the world, and they seem to be saying, let's have a chat with them, empathize with them, understand where they're coming from. Well, understand your enemy, that's chess. Get moves ahead, I get that bit. But this is three-dimensional chess, and remember, they mentioned the art of war. That's a high concept idea.
Yeah, 100%.
But the art of war is not paintball, and it's and if you really think about it, it's as if Alex Kurtzman and RTD have been to the same script writing school, because the giggle. How was that resolved with a toy maker? You had two doctors and a toy maker, a celestial toy maker, and they played a version of throw a ball at each other and who would drop it first. That reminded me of episode 3 Star Trek Academy, where basically it's NASA, isn't it? It's basically NASA in the future. And you know, when you talk to any scientist or you see NASA astronauts, they're quite serious, really, a little bit nerdy, very clever, or ex-Air Force, aren't they? They're up there. They're like the $6 million man.
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what? Another thing that I always find about these shows now, with especially Kurtzman Trek or, you know, Doctor Who under RTD now, pretty much everyone they write for now is perfect. You know, that they've got no character flaws whatsoever. Now, I'm going to give an example now of Captain Kirk, okay? And it's a novel called The Captain's Oath. And in The Captain's Oath, and this is why I hate Strange New Worlds, because they've tried to dumb Kirk down to be an idiot. But in the Captain's Oath novel, he's not got a confidence issue like they portray him in Strange New Worlds. He's actually overconfident, and it gets to a point at this particular point in the novel where he is up against him and two other Federation Starfleet ships are up against Klingon ships, and he breaks off and he defeats the Klingon ship because he's overconfident. And what happens is he realizes, and his admiral pulls him up on it, his commanding officer pulls him up on it. He basically, the Klingon leader, the head of the Klingon fleet, knew that the Klingon that he sent out, he knew what Kirk was going to do. So, because Kirk was overconfident. So basically, it gave him an avenue to come in and attack, and ships got damaged as a result of it. And he gets really chewed out about that. And what I love about Kirk is there are flaws. Kirk overcomes those flaws. You know, Kirk, as they know, he studied, he wanted to know the tactics, the strategies, all of that, you know. Do I see any of these kids in a simulator learning tactical theory, learning Kobayashi Maru scenarios?
You only had to go back in Star Trek when they basically had a little mini cabinet sometimes. He called together some of his officers and they discussed strategy.
I just have to punch a few buttons like this.
Christoph H. Bidmead, Logopoulos, Omega, and Beyond the Event Horizon in the Three Doctors. That's just to name two, and there's many in Doctor Who, and there's many in the original Star Trek series going through where they were looking at that whole concept of, you know, exploration, the frontier, and how human species would cope with it and adapt to it, and how we would relate to extraterrestrial night life forms.
Yeah.
They explored it imaginatively. But John, in the 3 episodes of Star Trek Academy and in the last 2 seasons of Doctor Who, I'm just asking you a simple question. Where was the science fiction concept stuff? Because all I saw was cosplay. All I saw was people playing dress up. And actually, they played at it. Or they say, here's a science fiction program, but it's going to be like Bridgerton. Here's a rom-com in space. Yeah. Here's a one about people who live on the internet and troll warriors.
Yeah.
This isn't high tech, innovative cult concept. Can you think of anything you've seen in Star Trek recently that's high concept?
No, and again, I always hear this word, and I think it might have been Paul Chato online who said it is gear porn. And when you watch the previous Star Trek shows that aren't Kurtzman, you look at the tech. You know, you look at 60s Star Trek and you think they came up with the concept of the communicator that is now mobile phones that we use to this day. You know, they came up with the transporter. Why did they do that? Because they wanted to save money, because they didn't want to have the ship landing every single week. So they came up with the concept that, okay, we'll do the transporter to save money on that. Now, next gen, what did we have? Captain Picard, you go in his quarters. He's got an iPad on his desk in the 90s. You've got that. You've got the replicators in the Next Generation era. You've got the holodeck, which was a fantastic creation by Gene Roddenberry. Now, when we're 900 years plus in the future, and you're telling me that there is no tech. Now, for me, my argument to them, if you haven't got people on board that can come up with innovative ideas for 900 years in the future, and yes, it's a science fiction show, but they proved in the 60s and in the 80s and 90s that they could do it, you shouldn't be going into the future without establishing what tech it's going to be. I mean, look at the Enterprise. You had the nacelles on it. You knew it looked fantastic, the Enterprise, but you knew what the nacelles did for the ship, you know. Now, what do they do in the future? We saw it in Discovery. We saw it with the Athena in this. The nacelles are detached from the actual main part of the ship. Yeah. So that makes no sense whatsoever. And again, they don't blame it. They don't explain it. They just do it. And again, this is why you probably see my cap here, Terry Trek. Terry Matalas, who did Star Trek Picard season 3, him and his team, they wrote a very good episode, the best Star Trek I've seen since Enterprise. And this is the kind of people that we need back writing Star Trek, that will actually be able and capable to do this sort of stuff, because there is none of it in this show whatsoever. Like you say, that there are, you look at the quarters, the only thing that I see from Star Trek is there's a bridge, the doors swish open. That's pretty much it. There is nothing new in it whatsoever.
We just sat in a canteen, or we sat having a picnic, or we sat in a dormitory, or well, God, there's even more to say.
It's a Hilton hotel lobby. Yeah, that's what it is.
So to challenge, to bring it back and to be fair to Doctor Who, John Lucarotti, Robert Holmes, Terence Dix, David Whittaker, and there's loads I'm missing out. Bob Baker, Dave Martin. Let's come back to all these writers in Doctor Who that have bigged up the program. If I've left anyone out, please tell me. Steve Gallagher, Ben Aronovich, Andrew Cartmel, who wanted, you know, there is concept there, there is drama in there is character in there, and they made the series, and it's just off the shoulders of giants. We get them playing on the fringes of, what would happen if you got lots of Captain Kirk wannabes in a canteen throwing custard pies at each other. I think I've got an episode. It's that level. And do you know what? I am so sad for the people behind the scenes, John. The talent, the art, the costumes, everything. Yeah. Because they're let down by one person, the showrunner, the writer. Because, and that's where I think even Jodie Whittaker I'll let off Ncuti Gatwa. I think in the end, It's the writing that pulls everything down.
Yep.
And they are cheats. It's funny how the episode was about cheating, when actually the biggest cheats, the biggest frauds are the two showrunners who are pretending to cosplay science fiction writers.
That was one of the worst programs I've ever seen. I need to cleanse my palate and watch The Sense Sphere. That Brendan really knows his stuff.
Alex Kurtzman, you know, he said during the pandemic, he did an interview and he basically said he wanted to use Star Trek as a vehicle for his social change, social justice. I'm paraphrasing his exact words, but his video's online. You can check it out. So again, I actually blame, and this is the same. If I'm talking about Doctor Who, I'm going to say the same thing about Star Trek. I blame the execs at Paramount because they allowed this to happen. Now it's under new ownership now, Paramount. Now, my message to those people is, can this? He's already filmed, I think, season 2. Get it out of the way, get it done. Jettison Kurtzman, bring in talented people, bring in Terry Matalas, get Star Trek back on track, and just black hole this thing, you know, because we should never want to have to speak about it again. Again, it's like Doctor Who, mate. In 50 years' time, when we're long gone, people will still be watching classic episodes of Doctor Who. They'll still be watching the classic episodes of Star Trek. This won't be watched.
No, I mean, and it's at every level. When I had to, and I'll remind everybody, I haven't done it for a while. When I used to be a teacher, yeah. Before you put a text in front of any kids, 11 to 18, you had to challenge its intellectual rigor. You had to think, is the vocabulary high enough? Is the syntax high enough? Because it has to teach them something new that they're not going to see in the pap that they read at home. That's the whole point of education, to push them further. And Doctor Who did it. Star Trek used to do it. I mean, Doctor Who wise, just to bring it back to actually a fair concept in this, transdimensions.
Yeah.
Time and relative dimensions in space. Whoa, that shoots your brain. But on top of that, John, you had Chris Boucher and other writers explain the concept in a way that almost made it look as though it would work. This whole idea in Doctor Who is amazing. And I have to say, it sells something really interesting, that this TARDIS, like I said, I'm not into the sentient bit really. I'm into more that it's a machine and it's just amazing astrophysics by Gallifreyan Society, who are using the energy from a star or from a black hole. It's like, whoa, it's massive.
Yeah.
At least they're trying to explain it. And I tell you what, all credit to people like Chris Boucher, who tried to explain something that can't be done.
One passes continually through the same points in time.
Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
Right? TARDIS is a separating
But now you get low-level dialogue. You get, I mean, to be honest, nothing against America, but when you get in Star Trek Academy, them all going, they're all using the vocab of some kind of colloquial, chatty student from Greece. It's
putting
all
the fingers up, all of that.
And the girl with bubble
a Romulan.
Oh.
Yeah, the Romulan. Sorry, that's meant to be a Romulan, for crying out loud. And what I would say to you as well, mate, is like you were saying about how they tried to explain it. One of my favorite moments in all of Doctor Who is I love the beginning of Robots of Death, where he's trying to explain to Leela about the TARDIS, and about the if you had it there but kept it further away, the big box would fit inside the little box. And again, some people might say scientifically that makes no sense, but it explains the universe of Doctor Who. They're making an effort to explain to you about how it works. You don't get any of that now. You don't, I'll go back to Academy as well. I mean, this show is so bad. We see this Caleb character in the first 5 minutes, grown up, right? He bites a guy's ear off in the shuttle. Okay. He's clearly murdered 2 of the guards on the shuttle, and the pilot is still alive, but groggy. And, Starfleet Academy, they decide to reprimand him at the end of the episode because he hacked the comm system, but they had no problem with the fact that he's probably murdered 2 people and he's bitten someone's ear off. You know,
Individuality.
Yeah, I know.
John, this is the danger of this, and it does go into politics, and I try to stay it, but they're blurring it because there's an idea here about rehabilitation. There's an idea here about anti-military, which we've mentioned. There's an idea here that if you're from some sort of broken home, that basically you get immunity for misbehavior as an adult. Now, I don't buy that. And I never bought that as a teacher. And I'm not aware of any school in Britain that allows that kind of free pass for anybody who's had a broken home or a kind of difficult childhood that they're allowed to throw chairs in class. No. This is the nonsense that Alex Kurtzman is writing. That if you've had a bad childhood, which apparently Caleb had fictionally, that he's allowed to mess on and do what the hell he wants in a military academy.
Yeah.
Put ice in my heart, darling, and I will stand and watch you free.
Our own Captain Birdseye with a vindictive, twitchy fish fingers in that mavety glove. Who knew that torturing people you don't like for prolonged periods of time is permitted if the progressives approve of your concocted cause?
Well, that's all right then.
Who knew? What happened to those liberal virtues that have proliferated our prisons and justice system? I, for one, not just kid, was stunned. But look, it's okay. Calm down, everyone. The doctor used the get out of jail immunity card excuse. He was triggered.
The death of 3 trillion people triggered me.
The potential death of 3 trillion people meant he felt truly warranted in applying.
How about we try this 3 trillion times?
Yeah, 100%, mate. And again, you know, the first 15 minutes of episode 1 of Star Trek Academy are insufferable, and I'm going to focus on Holly Hunter pretty much. But as part of that, we have Caleb's mother. Okay, she's on trial because Bracker, who's played by Paul Giamatti, you know, she was starving, so she basically works for him, and he goes stealing Federation supplies, and an officer gets killed. Now, you know, she basically then blames the Federation when she's been taken away. She goes, "Don't trust them," to Caleb. No, it's your fault this is happening. I know you might have been on hard times, but you would have known. Look, I mean, look at the guy there. You know he's not. You know he's not playing on the level, and he's got to be a pirate or some sinister character when he's got a tattoo on his neck. You know, so you knew what you were getting into, and you decided to go that route anyway. But what happens then? And again, Paul Giamatti, when he says his Bracker character, Holly Hunter's given him the big, you know, socialist, you know, you took advantage of this woman. And he's absolutely right what he says. He goes, no, a woman was starving and I had a solution, not an idea, not good intentions, a solution. He's 100% right. It's buy and demand. He basically could get her food. She was desperate. The Federation, the ideal Federation that Holly Hunter's on about, wasn't feeding her. So then we get Holly Hunter's Captain Nala has got the angst because she's failed this young boy. So she resigns from Starfleet. Emotion. And then when the Admiral turns up, and again, this Admiral should actually be investigated and there should be an inquiry because why he decided to handpick her to run the future of the Academy, I have no idea. But she basically is on Bajor again. How did she get to Bajor? Haven't they established this is set during the burn? You can't use starships to get there. No answer to that whatsoever. They seem to be selective of when it's useful and when it's not. Then we get to Bajor, and she says to the Admiral, I kid you not, she basically is saying that it is absolutely disgraceful that a child is taken away from their parents in that first episode. That's not true. What if the parent is abusing the child? It's perfectly acceptable then to remove the child from the parent. This is what I mean. It's the Hollywood LA bubble mindset of, oh no, we've got to think like this. No, there isn't a one-dimensional view here. There are many different aspects to why it can be right to remove a child, because of particular reasons. It's just stupid.
I mean, and part two, of course. I've never. I was saying to Jamie, I said, I've never done a lesson, right? I've never done a lesson of recruits training them to do whatever, and had them in the middle of a negotiation. So the next time Trump meets Putin, what we need is some kindergarten kids at the back who are watching, have their bubble gum, and actually they can join in as well. I've never known a negotiation like this. It is so stupid and risky and meaningless. That's my starter for 10. But John, go on. It's just go on.
Yeah, I was going to add into that, and to add to what you've just said, they bring Caleb in, who is covered in all kinds of white goo. The security guard doesn't take him to his quarters to get changed. He marches him straight into these delegate negotiations, covered in all kinds of mess, and then sits in front row for the negotiations. I wouldn't be doing that, would you?
Well, I know, but you had the scary captain going like this, going, behave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I owe you no respect. You're sitting in your pajamas, sniffing your own farts.
Yeah.
I mean, she's weird. Anyway, what I wanted to do is move on to what we seem to find now in sci-fi writing is this over-reliance on social messaging at the expense of coherent storytelling. I'll just trigger you by saying this, John. I've mentioned it seems to have an anti-military message. Okay, if you're anti-military, that means what you're saying is everybody in the world gets on. Otherwise, you're being naive and gullible and stupid. Anti-discipline. Can't hit the kids, can't do this, can't do that. No detention. Mind you, that captain, she suddenly bollocks them at the end of episode 3 and says, you're going to do all this, and gives them a nasty punishment. What?
Yeah.
Anti-service. Yep. We were getting, that's a message. Anti-uniformity, pro-individuality, anti-intellectual, anti-elitism. This is an academy. These are the best of the planet, the brightest of the planet, and they're as thick as something that stinks. Anti-aspiration. They make anybody who follows rules and everything look dysfunctional and nerdy and weird, but that's the whole bloody army for you. Story-wise, cheating's clever. Vanity and ego are not tolerated in the real army, but here, vanity, your looks, it's all there. Argument seems to be let the youth have their head, give them space, no authority allowed. She's a chancellor now, isn't she, this captain?
Yeah, she is. She's captain / chancellor now, isn't she?
Yeah, we've got sex and relationships going on rather than any bloody lessons. There's no education. She's not expanding their mind. She talks about growth. I think the growth is all in everybody's trousers.
Predictable as ever, Doctor.
Negation of what science and science fiction and tech and innovation is. And by the way, John, there is messaging in all this. I've listed a whole load there, people. Prove me Ron from the Star Trek Academy. Yeah. But, and we nearly went there in the 80s in Doctor Who when they were starting to share a bedroom. But there was a moment in episode 3 Star Trek Academy where was I getting a message that you can share your changing rooms, males and females? And I thought, I'm sorry, it's an academy. I'm sorry, you're in loco parentis. Sorry, whatever your politics are, whatever you want to waffle on about regarding with representation, I'm not going there now, but you have males in one and females in the other. And I'm sorry. No messaging or not, please.
Am I naked in front of millions of viewers?
Absolutely.
Your viewing figures just went up.
The males are site to site transported by the War Academy, War College cadets, right? The male and the females, right? The holographic one as well. But isn't it funny that 2 in particular males have pretty much got no clothes on, bar a towel, but yet conveniently both of the girls are showering with swimming costumes on, so when they turn up
Yeah.
And they're site to site transported, they're effectively clothed. Now, if that was the other way round, could you imagine the uproar? Hey, could you imagine? Oh, it's sexist, it's out of order. Dear me, it's terrible. Double standards.
Obviously, this Star Trek Academy, to me, if it was in the real world, they'll all be smoking wacky backy. They're all hippie. They're all
signing on.
Yeah, you would never get them up at 6 a.m. You would never get them to do one drill. They're so busy trying to decide who they're going to sleep with next. They're all trying to find their emotional, more like physical growth. It's dirty. And I have to say, this is the other thing about science fiction writing now. It feels like dirty old men writing teen rom-com stuff.
Yeah,
it really is
stuff.
It's debasing. It's degrading. It is infantile. It is appalling. And these men, because they are men, of course, these are earning an absolute stack. And when you go back to John Lucarotti, Verity Lambert, you go back to Gene Roddenberry even, now you'll have made a mint out of the franchise, but on the back of hard bloody work over many years, these lot don't deserve it, but they'll be making a stack, John.
Oh, they do. I mean, again, Kurtzman, he was the one who wrote Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we know how that turned out with the Andrew Garfield, even though Andrew Garfield was great in it. We know this guy is just a complete hack through and through, and that's my stance. I will not change from that. But you've just reminded me again about episode 2. The episode starts with the exterior shot of San Francisco with the buildings, and you've got Holly Hunter going, "First, make your bed." Now I know what that's about, and I know I might, when I did the review of it, Brian was saying, "Oh no, it's a military thing." I know it's a military thing because there was a general that released a book, about, the first thing you do as an, in the military is make your bed before you do anything else. And I get that, but we're talking about the person who's saying it cannot be bothered to even put a uniform on. I mean, I counted in episode 3. I'll give her credit. She almost had all of her uniform on at the end of the episode, but then she puts her feet up on the table and she's bare feet.
Yeah.
So what sort of example does that send to the cadets? But she says in episode 3, oh, these cadets have suffered enough. Why? That you might have had the burn, but it doesn't mean that they've had a hard life on their worlds. You still have replicators. You still have energy. This is what I don't get. They don't even watch Star Trek. Star Trek, you didn't have dilithium crystals on planets. They didn't fuel their planets that way. But yet these people are so lazy, they think it is. Why would suddenly not be able to chart to another system be a hard life? I don't get it. We're meant to feel sorry for them when I just think they're just stuck up brats, quite frankly.
But you see, you look at stuff like Space Babies, Devil's Cord as an example in the Doctor Who new era, and then you look at stuff like this, and nothing against. I mean, I'm gay. She's a lesbian character in this, isn't she? This one.
Oh yeah. I mean, they had to come out and tell us that. They even did a video the day before the episode arrived telling us about it. Aren't they brave? Aren't they strong? Aren't they clever?
So just for everybody's clarity, I haven't got an issue with us all existing, otherwise I'm getting rid of myself. But it's worse than that, though. What they're doing is they're taking characters, and my major concern, as I said, John, is the character on the right there, the engineer, because she's an engineer.
Tig Notaro's character,
yeah, she's like a NASA astronaut. She's into the engineering tech. And that's how she was played in Discovery. They take that character, chuck her into this, and suddenly she has an emotional background. And I have to say, they've changed her character, John. Suddenly she's sarky, she's nasty. I don't like her character. And she's down with the kids with some of these jokes. And then we get this nonsense about who they've forgotten to do a meal for each other. Look, you can have a lesbian relationship, you can have a straight relationship, but I'm bored with it because I want some sci-fi adventure. Are we going to take off at any point, John? Are we actually going to go on a trip?
It is so painful. And again, like you, I've got no problem with, and I keep saying this, I've got no problem with organic diversity. I've got a problem with force diversity. And it's I've made this example before, and I've said about, Star Trek Deep Space Nine in the 90s. We had Jadzia Dax, who was a Trill, who effectively is a trans allegory, but also she had a lesbian relationship kiss in an episode as well. Didn't care about it because she was a well-written character, and they made it, the writing was very good. Now it's just thrown in. I also want to say about female Jem'Hadar Klingon hybrid. Now brace yourself, mate, because this is my soapbox moment. Okay. This is what I hate about Kurtzman Star Trek more than anything, right? He's just thrown that in there. They do not explain it. Okay. In Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the Dominion, the founders, made the Jem'Hadar. They're a clone race. They're male. Okay. And essentially, they've got a tube in their neck which feeds them something called Ketracel White. And that is, if they don't get it, they're like drug addicts. They go mad, they go insane, and they go on a killing spree. It's used by the founders to control them. So they're the two things, right? You also have Quark in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, where they're about to be attacked by the Dominion. And he basically says he's going to go out of business because the Jem'Hadar, they don't eat, they don't like gambling, and they don't like sex. Now that's what he's applying to it. So now we come 900 plus years in the future, okay, with no explanation of how there's suddenly a female Jem'Hadar Klingon hybrid. How did that happen? What went on there? But also, you see in the first episode where she's got that wound, and they're in the sick bay, and they pull the wound out. A load of white comes out.
Yeah.
Their blood isn't white; it's Ketracel White, what is fed to them. So they haven't even understood that, about Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And the trouble is, like you say, it's we'll put them in here. It was, let's not do any clips for episode 3 about the new episode coming. No, we're going to have Tig Notaro and the woman that's playing the Jem'Hadar Klingon hybrid sat on chairs together, basically telling everyone that they're a couple in Star Trek Academy, because they're brave and they're wonderful. No, you're not. It's old hat now. We're bored of it.
Wherever we are, could be worse. We've got Mavity. Was Isaac Newton hot?
He was. He was so hot. Is that who I am now?
Well, it was never that far from the surface, mate.
It's the Californian kind of, we can do what we want in San Francisco and all the rest of it. That's why everybody's leaving San Francisco. I mean, honestly,
exactly.
And of course, like I said, if anyone hasn't watched it yet, there's the Honey Monster. I mean,
so I'm going to give you a teaser about this, which I think is going to happen, and I think it's going to upset a lot of people. There's an animated series called Star Trek Prodigy, okay, and this race was in Star Trek Prodigy as an animated character. So this is an Easter egg, but in that Star Trek Prodigy series, animated series, a holographic Captain Janeway turns up in it. Now, I think you're going to see a holographic Captain Janeway in this series, and I'm putting my hands up now. I think you're going to see it.
Well, of course, RTD in San Diego was joking about doing CGI, William Hartnell, and all the rest of it. In the Doctor Who universe, we had the Matt Smith Doctor when he regenerated from the previous one. He said, "Am I ginger?" And of course, here you can be a ginger biscuit in Star Trek Academy. I mean, honestly. He needs to be a hobnob. They're the Marines.
Yeah, every time I look at this, right, and I think to myself, and it pops into my head, and I think about when I watched Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country, and where they're on Chancellor Gowron's ship where he's being assassinated, and the blood is floating, and you're like, it's taken serious, it's played seriously, it's epic stuff. This is not played seriously at all. It's just, it's even insulting to a 5-year-old, this show.
that picture there, but it's not the only one, takes me to Space Babies, takes me to Devil's Cord as two examples notorious in the Doctor Who universe.
All of this is bogus.
No.
Yes.
No.
It's not.
By the way, his face and what he looks like that little plant in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
There's
That's what it is, isn't it? I mean, that's what they're doing now. I mean, it's and to be fair, it started with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, where they started to try and make Star Trek more like Star Wars, and Kurtzman has just carried it on. But where J.J. Abrams had an element of respect for what he was taking on, Kurtzman has got no respect whatsoever, or RTD for Doctor Who.
Well, this is my other point, John. I was going to say there's a disregard, it feels like, from our sci-fi writers for established canon.
Yeah.
And the franchise continuity. You've already mentioned some examples where things have changed. You've just mentioned the blood, for example. Although I could say in classic Who, Resurrection of the Daleks, why was foam coming out of a Dalek that's apparently got a disease? I mean, we know what's inside a Dalek. Where does the foam come from?
Yeah.
We could argue that, I suppose. Why does a sonic screwdriver suddenly have to be used like a wand? Well, the answer is Alex Kurtzman and RTD seem to have gone to school on screenwriting, and everybody said, although you are allowed to slag off J.K. Rowling, you have to copy every idea she had.
What if the toy maker's domain is still lingering? Oh, so maybe. Hey, watch this. Oh, wish me luck. You get a prize, honey. There is mine. Ta-da!
Completely nuts.
You finally caught up with the 21st century.
Exactly, mate. 100%. And again, I mean, you would have picked up on them though as well. And I mean, this is the nonsense of the show as well, where in episode 1, you see the holographic girl, and she establishes she's from a photonic, a holographic world. Okay, fine, but she's only 4 months old, but they've made her a 17-year-old because they want to learn, get closer to organics. Okay, but why would you make them 17 years old? I keep going back to this. When you see the Doctor in Star Trek Voyager, when he's first activated in the Caretaker pilot episode, yes, he's not sentient, but his personality is based on his creator. So he's a sensible, crotchety adult that you would trust to do medical treatments on you.
Did he stand up?
But now, I mean, again, in episode 3, she attempts to eat dirt at one point.
For those who haven't watched it, because we are here, I hear so many people saying, they watch reviews to save them having to watch it. But this is the bit John's talking about.
Do you know what? You know that bit in Wrath of Khan where Captain Terrell turns the gun on himself and he shoots it and he just disappears? I was actually going through my head imagining myself doing that when I saw this moment. I was like, I can't take it anymore. Just turn it in on myself and disappear.
It's a bit like watching the Doctor in the TARDIS in a chair rocking.
Yeah.
Mind you, we had the moment with that poor Ryan, that character, when he was sucking his thumb. It's there's certain things that you see and you think, I wished I'd never seen that in the franchise. I mean, I could counterbalance and say nearly everybody tells me when Nyssa dropped her skirt in Terminus, that was something that should stay in the franchise. all these moments in Doctor Who where you go, can we not have gone there, the Merker? But they're not on this scale. This is kind of a little bit like seeing somebody doing something quite intimate. Why are we doing this? But intimate, but also disgusting. Because, look, well, she looks as though she's about to hoover it up as well. It's a gross shot. There's nothing about it. That strapping lad in Doctor Who making him suck a thumb when he really looks like a male model was stupid. Well, she's not a female model, but to make her look as though she's going to suck up some weird kind of substance. What?
Yeah. Rick Berman, who was the executive producer of the Next Gen era of Star Trek, he would never have allowed any of this nonsense in Star Trek. And he gets a lot of grief, but at least he was trying to respect Gene Roddenberry's legacy and build on it. And they wouldn't ever have done all this stuff. The trouble is now, and it's the same with RTD as it is with Alex Kurtzman, they have too much power and not enough oversight. And that's part of the problem.
But they're all acting like that captain in the chair, lounging around, sniffing their own farts, because they're lazy. They refuse to follow. I mean, the Star Trek, I'll do the two analogies. In Star Trek, the Academy protocols go against Star Trek norms and go against the Star Trek rules. You can't have them in the same universe. Just like the Timeless Children, just like various things like bi-generation, just like a female doctor, all these things are just changing what is accepted knowledge. And as a fan, it's allowed. We are people who invest time and go, hold on a minute, but you can't do that. But I suppose we are in this dystopian universe now in real life where basically ignorance is strength. They give you opposites, don't they? And say, no, this is true. And it's not true.
No.
And so, the Timeless Children was one episode. Sutek looking like a Snoopy dog, changing things. You've mentioned the holograms in Star Trek, but the holographic characters like, Robert Picardo's Doctor, aged up arbitrarily. It's a bit like the classic Doctors when we see them on the edge in Power of the Doctor, and they're older because obviously they're older actors. But have we in either franchise successfully argued for why everything's been changed?
Vestiges of your consciousness, fragments of yourself from the past, guardians of the air.
And this is why I was saying, with Doctor Who, I didn't want Carol Ann Ford coming back to Doctor Who for two reasons. One, we'd missed the boat on that a long time ago, and two, the people that are producing and the person producing Doctor Who is not going to do that wonderful character justice. And it's the same with Star Trek. If they said tomorrow, oh, William Shatner's coming back to cameo in Star Trek Academy and Kurtzman's writing it, I would be hating every moment of it. I wouldn't want the final thing William Shatner does with Star Trek to be something that is written by Alex Kurtzman. It's the same thing. I think I was also going to say to you about the first episode, mate. This is how bad the writing is as well. Now, they're attacked, right? They're in the ship. They're attacked. You had to put that image up, didn't you? of diversity Mickey Mouse, as I call her.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, I already know, and I'm calling it, that Klingon's going to be gay because there's already been a couple of things that have popped up.
John, while you're still on, I know you're trying to say another thing. I've detected the same thing, but this is so wrong. As a gay man, I am really thinking, don't you dare make him gay, because
it's coming. It's coming.
Because gay equals being a bit soft, a little bit this. Excuse me, take me on in a dark alley. RTD, one sense sphere shut down. It's just like, don't do it. Stop it. And he's got blue eyes as well. Did the Klingons have blue eyes before?
No.
Oh, and it's just all this nonsense, and go on, John. You were making another point.
So that's coming, but what the point I was going to make? That guy does my head in. He's the worst of the cadets.
John, he's a dream. He's a dream. I know.
And now I would say she's the best actor out of the lot of them. She was actually
why?
Good. Yeah, but
he's cheating.
I'm short, but she's tiny. She's like about she's under 5 foot easily. But I was with the episode in episode 1, you know, where the ship's attacked.
Yeah.
Now, the Doctor establishes the fact that the holo emitters are offline, so the emergency medical holograms are unable to, you know, help the cadets around the ship. Okay. But you would think that there would still be human or organic medical officers enough to cover the entire academy and ship, because when they take Jem'Hadar Klingon hybrid lesbian woman to sickbay with her injury, there's no medical officer in sickbay. Wouldn't you think, even though people have to be treated, you would have one medical officer in sickbay at least? And also, hang on a minute, we clearly know why there's a weight problem in Star Trek Academy and in this future, because they don't walk anywhere. It's all site-to-site transports. That's what they do every single way they go. But it makes no sense whatsoever. It's on so many different levels. It's painful.
Well, and this is what's going on with breaking law, breaking rules, just out of laziness. You mentioned Susan a moment ago, so this is your fault. So here's the Doctor Who magazine, the 2020.
I hate you. I really do hate you.
And if you look at this, everybody, and Doctor Who fans have been doing it, you look at that picture, which is challenging. You go to the bottom left and you see Poppy,
Yeah.
and you see Poppy in some sort of top. If you're not sure and your eyesight's gone, there you go. And of course, John, what are you thinking of when you see that picture now?
I am thinking of Susan as seen in the Five Doctors.
Yeah. And that's when I suddenly go, right, there's no money to make any more Doctor Who. There's no money to make the Christmas special. Never again, because it'll stay on the cutting room floor and we are safe.
Yeah.
But as soon as this is the trouble, John, while you say they are good science fiction writers out there, and one day things can be sorted out. But the trouble is, you can't ignore some stuff. Once Susan is related to that Poppy, we're stuffed. That's it. It's over. Game over, isn't it?
100%. And you know, I've said to you before, unless it can be done, it can be fixed, but there's not the will from the BBC or from the Paramount people at this time to do what needs to be done to fix it. Because what do we do with Doctor Who? In my opinion, you give it a few years rest, you come back, even if it's a throwaway line, you basically establish that this is straight after Capaldi, because you have to jettison all of this rubbish that's come after it. Then what do? Star Trek. You basically come out and jettison Star Trek Academy, Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. You get rid of them. Section 31. You get rid of them, you know, and you go forward, you know, or you say that they're an alternative universe Star Trek, something like that. You have to do that if you want to get your IP back on track. But they're not prepared at this moment in time to make the hard decisions, because I think a lot of the higher ups, both at Paramount and also at BBC, they're all believers in this kind of mindset as well.
Well, what they're doing, John, is you've got older executives, people who are disconnected from youth.
Yeah.
Now, I'm disconnected from youth now, but I did teach kids, so I kind of saw what they were talking about. But that's only on trend while you're there. But now I'm out of it. But RTD and Alex Kurtzman did they understand what a youth audience or youth demographic wants? So suddenly you get this kind of tosh, this lazy, trite nonsense written as high concept science fiction, when really it's soap opera bubble wrap. And you're thinking, listen, mate, kids don't talk like that. Teenagers don't think like that. Neither do they look like that.
No.
You are they're so into inclusivity and representation, but they're misrepresenting the human race.
100%. And again, if I was an alien species coming to meet, you know, to come into Earth, I'd be like, yeah, we're not going to negotiate now. These lot are a flipping nightmare. You know, they're insufferable. We're going to go off somewhere else. And again, they make no sense. None of it makes sense. And again, for me, it's kind of like when you talk about the War College in the Star Trek Academy, why's the Vulcan decided to join the War College? You know, why would he join the isolationist defense organization for Earth, you know. And again, they don't, you know, you put a shot up a few minutes back, and it was episode 2, and it was the Betazoid president, you know, having a debate.
Yeah.
Now, anyone who hasn't watched Star Trek, Betazoids, you know, Counselor Troy was, you know, half Betazoid in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Okay. So in over 900 years, the president has decided that okay, fine. We'll give them a pass on. He's deaf. Okay. So why is he using American Sign Language when he's got a communicator on his neck that we're all hearing? It makes no sense. It's redundant. So there's that. He comes there and he basically says to rejoin the Federation, they want 12 ships to defend their system. Okay. So they go, no, that's completely unreasonable. So at the end of the episode, they've come back and said the 12 ships were completely unacceptable. But what we're going to do, we're going to move the Federation headquarters to Beta Z now.
Yeah.
So he's got far more than he asked for. So what happens if you get another species to join the Federation? Do you then move it to them to give it to them?
John, when I heard that plot line, I'm going, that's British policy. Yeah. Give away Chagos Islands for now. Yeah. Actually, for more than now. Give away our British fishing rights to the EU with nothing in return. I mean, I'm sorry, but I thought, this is British foreign policy we're doing here in Star Trek. But then...
My dear Mr. Chin, if I could leave, I would. If only to get away from people like you. England for the English, good heavens, man. I have a duty to my country, not to the world.
It was quite interesting, this scene as well, because I don't know if you picked up on it. You probably did, but there was certainly, to start with, they made the president of Beta Z a Trump figure. And then they kind of mellowed it as it went further into the episode. But this was clearly a kind of, this is Trump. But then after that as well, during this discussion, I thought they're actually almost trying to make a point about Brexit, I think, as well. And again, RTD, Kurtzman, they all think along that mindset. So it doesn't surprise me that they would put that in there.
They share the same screenwriting bed, so to speak. I have to say. Yeah, well, look at his name. But so he seems to be sounding like some American teenager by name, Jaden Chandler, you know, that sort of thing. But he's
Jaden Smith.
And they're breaking the Klingon characterization. They're butchering it for no doubt a queer message. And it makes me think that really, is this now highbrow sci-fi? Is this where we're going? Because you might feel patronized that Nobby the Nobot's here, but actually this looks like more science fiction than I'm getting here. Mind you, hold on. Sorry, hold on, John. You're gay. Oh God. There we go. Right, we've got a gay robot. What, you fancy? You fancy digital watches? You know, honestly. What level is this, John? Honestly. And it is just like the Doctor Who universe. The Doctor is now a very emotional and very sexual, when before the Doctor was asexual and just wanted to... And he was just a gallivanting cosmic hobo. We can't... I'm sorry, you can't surely change the Klingon race. You can't change our Gallifreyan time traveller. That's game over.
Well, this is to Paramount and the BBC execs directly. Do you know what? Can you stop making people's sexuality as being a major plot point or major arc in a series? We don't care. You know, in real life, you know, you don't go up to people, Brendan, and go, "Hi, I'm Brendan, I'm gay." And everyone goes, "Oh, well done, everybody! Congratulations! You know, let's have a party." You know, I don't go up to people and go, "Hi, I'm John, I'm straight." Oh, well done, well done, well done. This is like you say, they're smelling their own farts. It is so false diversity. It is ridiculous. We don't need it.
John,
Kirk, did we care? Yeah, he kissed women.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't need to know about Spock or any of them, you know.
I want to. No, I know. John, I've never been performative about me being gay at all. I've never done it. And it's not true. And I don't give away that I'm gay at any point ever in my streams. So sorry. Yes, it's like I've got a cloaking device on me, or that chameleon watch in Doctor Who, where basically I appear like a straight man.
Yeah.
But deep down, yeah. Honestly, I know, and we don't need the representation. I loved Classic Who. Where was the gay representation in Classic Who? I didn't need it. I wanted the adventure, the escapism, the imagination.
And it's like now, like these cadets that are being trained, so they're under attack. Right, hailing frequencies open, Captain. Okay. I understand you're attacking us, but just so you know, I'm gay. Oh, why didn't you say that earlier? Right. Stop the weapons, everybody. Let's meet up with them. How about dinner tonight at 8? Yeah, fine. End credits. Star Trek under Kurtzman. That's what it is now.
And we mentioned that lesbian, the two, the engineer and the second in command, number 2. There was a moment, I think the Dareem lad saw them chatting each other up a bit, and I'm going, right, okay, everybody,
is this appropriate at work?
This is not. You don't do that. So I know in the 80s you might have all been sat in the playground and saying, I wonder if that teacher fancies that teacher, but it was never really confirmed. You know, and who cared? But now you're seeing at a military academy. That's like me going to Biggin Hill now, and I see an officer, talking to another officer and saying, "I'll see you tonight. I'd like some chili con carne, please, before a little bit of fun in the bedroom." It's like, hey, I just want to know about how to fly that plane, you little swine. Yeah. I'm paying for this. It's a bit like, John, going to university now, paying £9,000 a year, but just getting all this crappy messaging and all the rest of it.
Gender studies course, that nonsense. And do you know what about that scene as well? This was another bugbear for me in that episode 3 is he's talking to her and he basically says he hasn't had any messages back from his parents. So that Tig Notaro character, she decides to give him her words of wisdom to basically go, the ones that show up are the ones that you should focus on. And she basically is criticizing his parents. You don't know anything about his history. You don't know anything about what's going on. You don't know the circumstances. And this is, again, another example of Kurtzman Star Trek. They don't actually write in the fact of why there's a problem, or Tig Notaro knows why that he's not getting responses, that the lousy parents. She just assumes that they're lousy parents because she's only getting one side of the conversation in under 5 minutes, and yet she gives him her life lesson to basically jettison your parents, go off with the cadets. That's
it's a bit it's a bit George Orwell, because John, it's the state, the government getting in the way between parents and kids. It's in essence, it's saying spy on your parents. In essence, it's saying judge your parents. Yeah. It's the bottom line. It's breaking the nuclear family into the state knows better. Listen to it. It's a bit like teaching primary school kids about sex education and the 75. 100%. We don't do the religion bit, but the 75 sexualities, that kind of thing. Honestly, the state does not know better. And of course, how do these know better? This is science fiction. Can you imagine H.G. Wells going, what the hell is this? Wondering, and I have to say, John, what really grieves me, and I will still say it, and it's a horrible lamentation. You look at the sets, you look at the cost of it. These are very expensive episodes of Star Trek Academy, just like our TARDIS interior. Just like the CGI of bone dinosaurs and the Sutek and the Omega. This is all polished.
They're about $8 million an episode, $8 million an episode. Whereas, to put it into contrast, Terry Matalas did Star Trek Picard Season 3 on $1 million an episode.
Well, John, you look at that scene there. What you saw in Star Trek Academy, let's be honest, you could have just gone to an outside broadcast, gone into a normal school building and just had a lot of chairs and doing that scene. Yeah. You just don't need it. And it's the same with Doctor Who. Why did we have that TARDIS so big when nothing bloody happens in it? Why have so many ramps, messaging? Why have that
wheelchair
LED?
ramps.
Yeah, the LED screen and boom. When, to be quite honest, it had the same orange war effect as you see in episode 3 Star Trek Academy with the same plastic rocks. I mean, what?
I think, I just think it just looks, well, again, I say the set, you're right, the sets look very, very impressive. It's the quality of what is being written that is the problem. And again, I'll give you another example. This is an example of the writing in episode 3. So you've got the cadet, the holographic cadet basically says, and this is an actual quote: in the 28th century, some cadets transported the entire first-year class from the sonic showers to the roof of Alcatraz. It took the faculty half a day to get everyone down. Sorry, you've just confirmed that they transported the entire first year to the roof of Alcatraz, and it took them half a day to get them down. Why don't you just transport them back? And again, these are people writing it, and you think to yourself, I figured that out in under 5 seconds, and yet they've written that and they've not even twigged because they're not Star Trek people.
Those people in Britain who were brought up in the 70s and 80s will know there was a kids program called The Adventure Game, a kids version of the Krypton Factor, and that had more in it regarding having to use your brain than this stuff. But you see, we mentioned this off stream before. I mentioned the war between the land and the sea and the cover version of David Bowie's "We Could Be Heroes." You mentioned the San Francisco moment in Star Trek Academy episode 1, and they both were going for exactly the same trick: use a great song, nothing wrong with the song and the music. Well edited, nothing wrong with them, with those production values, but it was all to hit an emotional beat that didn't exist because you hadn't built it up. Why are they so bothered about going to San Francisco? Why in Doctor Who, or should I say the spin-off series, were we so bothered about a man swimming with a fish? The man from Atlantis had done it a long time earlier.
Yeah, and can I also, there are some points I want to say about this San Francisco.
I've triggered him.
Yeah, you've broken me today. So if you take out the cheesy San Francisco music, because that really, do you know what they should have done? I thought about this. When the nacelles are detaching and you've got the slow-mo of the Athena descending to Earth, and it's if you're going to San Francisco, do you know what was going through my head? Do you remember in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, the body form sanitary towel adverts, and it was Dr. Alban, It's My Life? I just had that playing in my head while that ship was descending. And the other thing I'm going to say about this is, and to be fair, this started under J.J. Abrams, where they were having ships go into the atmosphere. No, these are starships. They're capital ships. We've established in previous history, you see it on screen, they're built in space dock.
Yeah.
That's where they're built. They're constructed there. That's why they've got the transporters and shuttles to go down. Voyager could land. It's an Intrepid class starship. It could land on a planet. And there are other ships that could do that. They established that in history. But what happens here? I'm going to give you an example. When you get the slow-mo as it's coming in to Starfleet Academy, to Starfleet, and the ship's slowing down, you actually see the thrusters fire, and there's a ripple of waves, like it causes a tsunami going towards the land. So anybody that sat there looking out that one day, they're dead.
Yeah.
And again, it makes no sense. It's just to have the ending of we're going to San Francisco, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the best bit of the episode is a bit of a San Francisco song. The best bit of the episode in The War Between the Land and the Sea is David Bowie's "We Could Be Heroes" cover version. But what you were seeing was a challenge.
Yeah.
What I'm showing you here is an example of how they think this is sci-fi now in Star Trek. And in Doctor Who, we have all the gadgets and the mumbo jumbo. I mean, Space Baby's the set. had loads of things going on, but as we know from the Disney leaks, it cost a bomb that episode to try and get the lip syncs going, but for what narrative effect? None. With this, John, how many episodes of Star Trek Academy are we seeing where you see all those droids everywhere, loads of them CGI'd in? You see great graphics, and like I said, design's good. You see spaceships in the distance in San Francisco. You see loads of stuff going on, but who cares? This is cosplay science fiction.
Yeah.
Basically, it's high school drama, not much drama. It's high school jinx with the wallpaper of science fiction by just having lots of droids everywhere. It doesn't make any sense why they're there. Because, to be quite honest, those droids should surely be cleverer than these idiots at the Academy. Have the droids running the ship. Honestly, none of this makes sense, John. This is just science fiction wallpaper.
Well, yeah, and also, like, you look in the image there, the building, I always laugh because, oh, they've got solar panels on the roof, everybody, just like we have today. They had to show us solar panels, exactly. And it's just, it's a nonsense. It's so painful to see.
Why do they have the, I mean, they shouldn't have roads in the future because they can all fly.
Yeah.
So why have we got the San Francisco Gateway, Golden Gate Bridge? I mean, it's unnecessary
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Bye.
and, you know, and it's so ridiculous. But also, I did laugh in episode 2 because I'd already prepared myself. I said, we're going to see the whales from Star Trek 4 at some point.
Oh.
And I bet you those whales are communicating to each other and they're going past and they're going, I bet they wish we'd gone extinct now.
Well, they weren't exactly the whales from the Voyage Home. They were cartoon whales. They were, I mean, this was like
It's classic Kurtzman.
This was like
it's classic Kurtzman.
Yeah, this was like the whale that you see in Pinocchio when he swallows him. It's a cartoon whale,
Painful.
and Jamie was saying it's not even swimming properly. They can't even get the animation right. I mean, honestly. And you know what? They love their messaging: anti-religion, anti-this, anti-that, individuality trumps everything. Meanwhile, basically, you had whales in a kind of aquarium, and I thought that's not a very good.
And can I give you another bit of also bad writing? In episode 2, Captain Nala, Holly Hunter, says to Caleb, "I want you to get closer to that Betasoid girl." You know, the president of Betasoid's daughter, because it's not about you. It's about, you know, effectively it's about the Academy. This could help us. So she tells him to get closer, and then they're underground in watching the whales. Suddenly the president of Beta Z turns up. Holly Hunter's Captain Nala and the Admiral turn up, and she's basically has a go at him and says she's disappointed in him. And I'll be like, you told me to get closer to her.
You two-faced, hypocritical little turd.
Yeah. Tell your face.
Yeah, who are you? Honestly, I can't stand her at all. I mean, you're supposed to. I liked Kirk. I liked Janeway. I like Picard. If I'm leaving anyone out, please tell me off. And I've always liked Doctor 1 all the way through to Doctor 12 and 13's Jodie, isn't it? Jodie was Jodie. Doctor 14 was gay, you know, I fancy Isaac Newton, and then Doctor 15, as you know, just had a knee problem. You normally like your lead. That's the whole game, isn't it? If you're a good writer, John, me and you aren't writers. How dare we criticize? But honestly, if you are a good writer, you create a character we like.
Yeah.
I don't like her being barefoot. She's not Sandy Shaw doing puppet on a string. It's unhygienic. I'm sorry, but you tell me which military academy in the world would allow you to go barefoot. They would say it was unhygienic, and I'm sorry that those are our rules. Bog off. I'm sorry, but she would often show her pristine boots. She's trying to get discipline from her troops.
Example.
Oh, sorry, discipline. Discipline being a dirty word. Just like in Doctor Who, normally adventure, escapism, not interfering used to be the kind of backbone of Doctor Who. Now all bets are off. And it's all on crud. I mean,
it's
John, as we start to wrap up, and if people have enjoyed this, me and John can really do the Star Trek versus Doctor Who again, and we'll go for certain topics. But, you know, I mean, I just think it is dangerously filling airspace. The spin-off in Doctor Who, fill in 5 episodes, misusing budget. We could have had more
Well,
Doctor
there's
Who.
there's another example of here, mate, with episode 3. You know, I laugh because they rip off a movie I love, which is called Starship Troopers, where they go,
Oh,
where they're
yeah.
doing the advert about join the academy and all of that. That's a complete rip off of Starship Troopers. But what they do, they're so lazy, these people, that the scenes that have happened in the episode about 15 minutes earlier, they use them again for the advert on the screen when the War College cadets are trying to get at them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're that lazy, you're trying to fill airtime and space again, and you think we won't notice it, you know?
Well, it's a bit like in Doctor Who series 1. We'd already reset. Sutek was boring. We have a memory TARDIS, please explain that one. A time window, please explain that one. And then we had 15 minutes of go and find your mum. I mean, it was unnecessary crud filling in an episode. Yeah, put it in bloody Emmerdale, put it in something else, but not in Doctor Who. You are running out of ideas, mate. Do you know what? Their sci-fi concepts are so lightweight and so flimsy that they can't fill out an hour. The other thing, John, that I thought about, just to conclude, is everything you've watched in your life to do with sci-fi or entertainment, why 1 hour for Star Trek Academy? Why 45 minutes for Doctor Who? When really the ideas in them and the message in them could take... It could be shorter than a Rent-A-Ghost episode.
100%.
It could be shorter than a Jetsons episode. It could be shorter than a Grange Hill episode that looks bloody gritty compared to this.
I've just finished, because I got it from my lovely family at Christmas. I got, I think I said to you, I got the Twilight Zone Blu-ray set. So I watched that, and I got the Outer Limits, the 60s Outer Limits series set, Blu-ray set. Excuse me. And you see in there, mate, the quality of the writing. You know, it's top-notch writing. And again, these people are not able to write at this that standard, so they dumb it down, as I said at the beginning. And I will say, mate, do you want to know how we know that this is an appalling era of Star Trek? Because when you look at the board where it's got all the names of the officers from the past, it's funny. They are Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. But do you know what? There doesn't seem to be anyone on the wall memorial for the last 900 years. So that kind of makes me think that no one outstanding has appeared in 900 years in Starfleet history, you know? Oh, dear.
And surely, sci-fi concept, I'll throw one in for free, everybody. If you can do bloody holograms and all the other gadgets going, and you can have all their names on a screen, I think you'd be able to... Right, okay. Oh, God, here's one, John. Oh, this'll break your brain. From Star Trek starting, the original series, how did it normally start? Captain's log. Wouldn't those captain's logs be recorded that you can then use in lessons in the Star Trek Academy? In other words...
100%.
They could still teach. Instead of you saying... There's a funny little plant here, and if you allow growth, it just and all this crud. I mean, they sound like zippy. You could just have episodes, although why don't you just then show the original series?
Well, on top of that, mate, you're 100% right. On top of that, don't forget, it's established we've got holodeck technology. You can go in to the holodeck, and you can actually learn from a Kirk hologram. You can talk to him, you can interact. You know, we saw in Next Gen when, you know, Wesley Crusher is talking to the holographic version of his dead father who'd left a message for him of when he came of age. You can do that. You can, you know, you've got all of the history. Janeway used to go in and talk to Da Vinci, you know, in Voyager.
Is this a cheat now, though, John, as well? I understand what you're saying. I'm going to throw spanners in, of course. We getting holograms a lot in Doctor Who as well now. So, like in Power of the Doctor, you had the Sylvester Doctor suddenly say to Ace, although it was the Jodie Doctor really, but they changed the face. And you had the Peter Davison Doctor. We're starting to do this hologram AI nonsense, aren't we?
I mean, it's all about having rules. if you have rules, you can make it work.
Discipline.
Yeah, exactly. So look at
Anti-discipline.
Next Generation with the holodeck in that era, Voyager as well.
Yeah.
You couldn't leave the area, the holodeck, or the the sick bay. If you went beyond the hollow emitters, you basically were erased. You disappeared. That was established with holograms from season 1 of Next Generation. But then what they did in Voyager is the Doctor got future technology, which was a hollow emitter, which sat on his arm. So they've written a reason why he can now do that. So it makes sense within the universe. But what you don't have is in Star Trek Academy, the ship is attacked. It's powering down because it's been grappled. I'll come on to that in a second. You've just reminded me of something. But it's been grappled. The power's down, but suddenly the hologram girl has got the power to light the entire corridor by putting her hand against the wall. Now, previous Star Trek would have explained in the episode the powers that she's got or the abilities she's got. They don't. And this goes back to what you were saying earlier on. It's just magic now. They just use magic. That's like an incantation she's just spoken and it suddenly lit it up. That's where we are with it now. And
yeah, because you can make your own rules. That's the thing. I don't like the rules I'm inheriting from a 60-odd-year-old franchise, so I'll make some brand new ones called Hocus Pocus Magic.
Yeah.
And yet you've got your audience. They're saying they're doing this for their audience. I'm sorry, but the audience are science fiction avid fans. And what you're doing is replacing science fiction with fantasy and magic. And that's a different genre. And they're actually completely changing the whole shape, core, and spirit of Doctor Who.
100%. And again, I'll throw this little tidbit to you as well. They get attacked in episode 1. The ship is clearly showing the nacelles are damaged and there's explosions, right? Cadets being thrown everywhere. We get to Earth. We get to San Francisco. The nacelles, there's no damage on them whatsoever. We don't have any consequences of casualties or deaths or dealing with that loss for what's happening. And I'm going to throw this in, mate. Okay. You're more concerned. Two things, and I'll wrap up. How does it make tactical sense to have a ship that has all your future cadets to rebuild the academy, that you're going to fly them in the academy across space, where we've already seen that's a dangerous risk, because if someone decides to attack you, you've wiped out your academy and you've got to start again. Why have we got to fly to San Francisco? Or could it be we're lazy? We just want to have that scene where it's landing in San Francisco. That's probably the answer. But it's just terrible stuff. It's low quality.
It's basically being blinded by your whatever your message you want to get across. But instead of actually going through the hard yards of crafting a script, it's throwing it at the TV and just saying that's all you're getting. And we're calling it sci-fi. And if you don't like it, bog off. And I still have my grass here.
Yeah,
I cook on a regular basis. And
I was going to say quickly as well, mate. And also, I would say that with the ship flying across, it's complete nonsense. That's rubbish. But there are other elements to it that are just again, it's terrible.
Everything you say about Star Trek, I say with the TARDIS landing like a shuttlecraft at unit headquarters. We know, we love it. It's dematerialization.
Yes.
But why does it? And I know it can.
It was fine. It was fine for one episode. In the Christmas episode, we saw it and we thought, "Oh, that was really good. I like that." But you're right. There's something wonderful, and what's so unique about the TARDIS, mate, is that, as you said, it materializes and it dematerializes, and it travels in time and space. I mean, that was all nonsense. Again, this goes back. So you've just reminded me of something. That episode when, he's coming in, crashing in, and what was it Kate Stewart says? Something like emergency code red or something.
Yeah.
So they move out of the way and he smashes through the desks and chairs. Why would you put your desks and chairs there if that's gonna happen?
And why does he land like that? Apart from showing off some budget, when, and I don't agree with this either. But in the Bad Wolf episode and the one following with the RTD era initially, that TARDIS that landed around Rose on a Dalek UFO.
Yeah.
What? Hold on. If you look at all of Classic Who,
Yeah.
if the TARDIS could materialize around somebody to save them, wouldn't it have saved or cheated from so much jeopardy? I hated that moment. I was thinking, how is he going to get Rose from a Dalek spaceship when they're waiting for him and he says, I'm coming to get you? I was just thinking, I can't see this.
No.
And then suddenly it goes around, and then the Doctor can come outside and do some messaging, and oh no, there's a force field. Since when did all this happen? Oh, it's just because we want to make it up, because we want a moment when he shouts at the Daleks.
Yeah.
I disagree with all that. You're completely changing the program. How many Doctor Who fans allowed that moment, but now when you look at it in retrospect, you know,
rose tinted glasses off. You see it and you analyze it. Yeah.
If you can materialize around a companion to save them, you can now suddenly crash into the unit headquarters, and suddenly it is not the TARDIS at all.
100%. And it's like the unit headquarters, mate. You know, it makes great military strategic sense to have an underground basement with all kinds of monsters locked up in there, where that base is in a massive residential area in London. I mean, it makes perfect military strategy, doesn't it? And to have a lift that goes straight up to the command level.
Well, they never showed you the bit in Star Beast when you know the whole planet's cracking.
Yeah.
All the roads are cracking. So in other words, the whole thing's going to be kaput.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, one exception doesn't make the rule. Okay, reality war. When everything's sinking into the underworld, it's not a good idea to have the unit tower there, is it?
No, it's like End of Time, though, where you see Gallifrey in the skies getting closer to knock the Earth out. Even at that point, you're like, there would be volcanic eruptions, there would be earthquakes, because, you know, and it's like you come back after it, and even what is it? Donna's mum is basically, you know, going to the shops. You know, everything's tickety boo and happy. You know, it's like ridiculous.
There's stuff I can cope with, and there's stuff I can't cope with. Everybody seems to say to me they loved the moment because you had all the companions from New Who around the TARDIS. A nice bit of music, like a hymn, and then the TARDIS was towing the Earth.
Yeah, I know. At that point, I saw that and I was like, my gosh, you know. But then, since then, I mean, that's like Shakespeare compared to what we're getting now.
Well, that's for another day. John, you're going to be a busy chap, and go on, give us a shout out for your channel and regarding your Hot to Trot. I mean, you know, we're cross streaming quite a lot now, but come on, John, sell your channel. What you're up to?
Yeah, thanks, mate. First of all, it's been great fun doing this today, and like you, if people want us to do more, I'm up for it, definitely. But today, we're Sunday, so we've got Stargate SG1 live watch party. So we've got 2 episodes of season 4 tonight, and then we've got an episode of Supernatural coming up, and then Tuesday night, you know about this one, we've got the second live show for our paranormal show, where we're talking about
he's nicked my husband, basically. And
there's a defection going on, everybody. Yeah.
Now remember, this might be timey-wimey. We're recording this, so this might not be Sunday, of course, and this might not be Tuesday. But Tuesday night's paranormal and or UFOs. Sunday night you Stargate and your Supernatural.
Yeah.
And
Friday night is the Pub Chat live show, where it's me, Ian, and Swappers, and we just riff and we talk about the news that's happened that week. It's a nice relaxing time. You know, so pull up a chair, grab a pint, and come and join us.
Remember, that's Sci-Fi Chronicles, everybody. Sci-Fi Chronicles 79. Let's be precise here.
Thank you very much.
If you want to write to John and you still use X, at Gallifrey11 for ideas and all the rest of it. But John, I think we only touched the surface of
did.
this nonsense to do with the death of science fiction writing. I know everybody, I'll probably do a saloon on this with a kind of headline version.
Yep.
But honestly, I do think this. I do think science fiction writing is disappearing, and we're dumbing everything down. How we want kids to be the brightest and the best and clever in the future when we really are just turning it into kind of rom-com crap.
I'll finish on this, mate, but you know, I remember going into like a WH Smith's or a, you know, or a bookstore, and there would be an entire shelf full of top quality science fiction novels that I could just pick up and read.
Yeah.
It's extremely diminished now. Most of it is what you were talking about earlier. Most of it is sort of it's like fantasy more than sci-fi now.
Yeah. Which is why we have fantasy politics
Yeah,
now. It's no
yeah,
surprise.
exactly,
We have fantasy politics. If we all gave away our nuclear weapons and were nice to the enemy, they'll be nice to us. And if we give them all the things that you nicked off them and give it back to them, they will love you forever.
Tickety-boo, everyone.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Bye-bye. And if you give all the British fish, I know it's a strange concept, to the French, they will be nice to you.
Yeah.
Oh, go on. Do you know what?
It's,
What sort of diplomacy and politics? Brain cells in your pants.
It's like Captain Nala from Academy's running everything in this country at the moment. It really is. It's painful.
Yeah. And I'm trying not to be political, everybody, but the point is, I've made the analogy. You disprove it.
100%.
Sorry, all I've done is list facts in quite a tight way, tart way. John, I know you're busy tonight, even though timey-wimey, this may be your future, John.
Yeah. Time stream, everyone.
But at the moment, you've got your present to deal with, and I'll deal with this past in the future.
Timey-wimey, wibbly wobbly.
Yeah. Another example, should we end on that, John? That timey-wimey, instead of saying Blinovitch limitation effect. There you go.
Yeah, that's given me a headache.
RTD wants Sensphere shut down. Those hoopheads have had the last hand up them. Time to die. This is giving me the creeps. This never happened on Finger Bombs. One by one, they're all mine. They don't like it up 'em. All this walking, I wish I had my Benidorm motor scooter.